How the Civil War affected women. Approximately 2,000 women, North and South, served as volunteer nurses in military hospitals during the American Civil War. That is just one of the many jobs that women did during this war. Also, there were almost 400 women spies during the American Civil War.
The war would have been much more different without women's help. They moved it forward without second thoughts or hesitations. And, you might ask, what exactly did they do? Some of them volunteered as nurses. They managed the physical needs of patients. They cared for patients' emotional and spiritual needs, and they made sure they were fed their correct diets. Famous Civil War nurses include Clara Barton and Dorothea Dix, who organized the nursing corps, or women took up any male job that was available. They would even do some illegal jobs, such as soldiers. Women soldiers had to disguise themselves by changing their clothes, name, hair, and voice. Since many male soldiers were young and not old enough to shave, it was easy for women to disguise themselves. One soldier was Francis Clayton for the South, and another illegal job was being spies. They sometimes disguised themselves, joined the enemy's army, or even pretend to be slaves. They would give information to their real army. Spies include Belle Boyd, who was a Confederate spy, Rose O'Neal Greenhow, who was also a Southern spy, and Sarah Emma Edmonds, who was a Union spy.
Since women weren't supported by their male relatives anymore, they were now the heads of families, and sometimes they had to run the plantation instead of the men. Also, they would do any work which would pay them to help support their families, like school teachers, store clerks, or factory workers. Also, women were now closer than ever, and they comforted and helped each other. One association that brought them together was the Women's Central Relief Association. This association would distribute necessities to the battlefields and would also make blankets, uniforms, and other textile products.
African American women in the South volunteered as nurses, laundresses, or they just worked in hospitals. For example, Harriet Tubman, one of the most famous black people, was a slave in a plantation, but she helped the American Civil War very much. Also, she led other Southern slaves to freedom. Until the Emancipation Proclamation, the North refused to let black volunteers and freed blacks help them.
Like this, every woman in the American Civil War did something, anything, to help everyone else. Without women's help, the war would have ended much later and maybe even with a different outcome.